Good morning, everybody, and hello, how's it going? Today is Wednesday, and it is the day where we find out how much we're getting paid from YieldMax ETFs and Roundhill ETFs. And of course, to start off the day, we're going to start off with YieldMax ETF getting our Group A payments coming in strong this week. As you guys can see, it's already up on the screen, but we're not going to stick to the Twitter page. We're going to go ahead and go to their official website. We're going to go ahead and take a look at how much they were able to get for every single fund and how much we're earning this week, or I myself am earning this week off the funds that I own myself. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first ever payment from LFGY. It's a new weekly pair that they have in the crypto and industry and tech industry space. And they're paying $74.73 per share, or 74, almost 75 cents per share for their first payment, their first weekly payment. It's pretty good. If they're able to keep that up, that'd be quite interesting to see if they're able to keep that up. Of course, this could be because they earned the income beforehand and this is their first payment, so they might have a huge lump sum left over from previous earnings that they were able to get. But 74.73 is not bad if they're able to keep it up. Of course, that is if the NAV is able to keep up with that as well, as it is in the crypto space, which is a little bit difficult, as you guys have seen with Ulti, which is pretty much what they'll be trading similar to that. It seems like it's going to be something similar to Ulti, of course, in the stocks they pick, because it is, of course, the crypto industry. So you're going to see Mara, probably Riot, Coinbase, all these different MSTR, all these different stocks and ETFs that are in the crypto space. Moving on is YMAX, which paid $17.20 per share. We then have YMAG that paid $10.02 per share. YMAX has been slacking a little bit. YMAX as well, I really do want YMAX to stay around the 20-cent mark. If it stays around the 20-cent mark, that's a great mark for it to stay, especially if I hold 500 shares, which I do. That's going to be paying me $100 per week. So if it's able to stay 20 cents, that'll be great. Of course, $17.20 is not bad at all. Then we have TSLY, which paid $71.70, so we're down under the $1 mark with TSLY. They do have money left over from previous earnings, but it seems like they're spreading that around, so they're able to pay us a stable income rather than one lump sum. So we're getting $71.70, and of course, if you guys do or do not watch Retire on Dividends, he talked about TSLY with his estimate video, and TSLY actually is performing quite poorly with their trades, and a lot of people actually on Twitter are mentioning that as well. As you guys can see, this person, don't know who it is, Rose Petal, also mentions that they're losing their weeklies, and they're kind of in the red currently with TSLY, so it'd be great to see them doing better trades with TSLY. And then of course we have the opposite of TSLY. We have Crash, $28.62 per share being paid for Crash. We have GOOY paying $33.24, which is also not too bad. GOOY paying around the 30 to 40 cent mark is something I expect and something I wish they continue to do, because that is good enough for me when it comes to GOOY and its NAV stability as well as somewhat growth. We then also have YBIT that pays $78.93. We have OARC that paid $32.98. Zomo that paid $34.85, Snowy that paid $73.92, TSLY that paid $64.49, and of course we have the new funds FIAT and FIVY. FIAT paying $2.1944, and then we have FIVY that paid $1.6771. FIVY, I've actually been looking into FIVY because FIVY, I'm pretty sure FIVY is the one that actually owns the shares of the company that it's trading on, as well as the synthetics. So it's kind of a little bit safer of a position. And if they're able to keep up this this distribution per share on every single month, of course, I'm pretty sure this is their first distribution. If they're able to keep this distribution for the next 2-3 months, then I might look into investing into this ETF. Because it does seem like it has a promising future with possible NAV growth and value growth, as well as dividends if they do continue to stay this high. But that is also, of course, they might have had earnings from previous start of their fund, which they didn't pay out last time, so they might have had some extra funds to pay out for this month. So we'll have to see, like I said before, give it 2-3 months, see what the distributions are, see how the NAV stays, if it's stable, if it grows, and if with that, then we'll see if we're going to go ahead and invest to it. But let's go ahead and take a look at our funds. So we have TSLY, of course, first off, the biggest pair when it comes to my fund or my portfolio, and we have TSLY with 450.2143 shares. and we got our 71.70 distribution, which gave us $322.80. $322.80 earned for the first month of the year of January from TSLY. We also got GOOY payment. The GOOY payment was, of course, on our 324.9993 shares, and we got $33.24 per share for GOOY, as mentioned before, which gave us a total of $108.03. If we take a look at that, of course, compared to before, 298, we can't compare it to that because that was 2 distributions. When we look over at the month prior to that, 37.71, so the distribution per share was lower. We added on only 3 shares. We actually have not increased since December, but we did get a little bit lower of a payment from November, but a little bit higher from October. If we look at TSLY, of course, you can't compare it to December. December, we had high distributions as well as 2 distributions. But we take a look compared to November, we are higher than November, but we are lower than October that had distributions of $1.09, of course, with also lower shares. So even with the higher shares, we were not able to keep up with the October payment, but we are still higher than November and as well as September, which did have lower shares and a lower distribution per share. So there's that. There's also YMAX that paid us. If we go ahead and take a look at YMAX, YMAX paid us this week on our 509 shares. As you guys can see, I've not been adding money into YMAX, and that is because I had to do an option contract trade on TNA. I had to extend it to next year, or this year technically. I had to extend it to this year into July. Therefore, I had to save some of my dividend income to go ahead and pay for that, so I could continue to trade TNA. Of course, a poor man covered call strategy, and that cost me a little bit onto there. It wasn't too great or that much of a high price, but it was okay. And with that, we were staying at 509 shares, and then on that 509 shares, we got that 70.20 per share, which gave us $87.63, giving us a total so far of 306 shares. And as you guys may or may not know, we're also getting a distribution next week, which is technically the 5th week, so 5 weeks of payment for this month. So we're going to I'm probably going to add more shares into this next week. And with that, we're going to get one more payment, which will probably boost us up to around the 350, or maybe if we're able to get another 1720, we'll get close to the $400 mark for YMAX. As you can see, we're 53.85% higher than the week prior, as well as we're higher than the other week before it, and we're below from week 1. But of course, that was an 18-cent per share payment. If we look at the month prior, also 5 weeks of payment, we are getting close to actually beating it, which is surprising. But we did have less shares, of course, so it's not comparable. We had a lot of less shares, so therefore, we cannot compare it to that. But there's also Roundhill that paid out, and if we go over to Roundhill actually had its distribution as well, and if we go ahead and take a look at that, we could see that for the week 4 payments from Roundhill, and as you can see, we've been adding shares into Roundhill. We're at 220.6742 shares, and we got a distribution of $24.60, and that gives us a total of $54.29, down 26.29% compared to last week, but it is higher than the week prior of week 2 payments. And of course, we're going to be getting a 5th week payment for this as well, and we currently stand at $230.32 earned so far for the month of January from QDTE. Now, with all those distributions, with all those dividends, what am I planning to do? Well, of course, as always, you guys may or may not know, I take the distributions from, say, week A, as of today or this week, and I'll put them into week B of next week. Since next week, week B, I do not have any monthly paying ETFs that I own from YieldMax. I will be distributing this money into QDTE and to YMAX. I will be doing so before the distribution date. That is because the value of the ETFs does not drop significantly enough for me to wait until after distribution date. It will not drop like, say, TSLY, for example, which will drop 71.70 after distribution date or ex-dividend date. QDTE and YMAX will only drop 17 cents, or say QDTE is 23 cents. It's not significant enough for me to sit back and wait for it to drop. Therefore, I will go ahead and purchase into them before the distribution date next week. So therefore, I could then get distributions out of them, which will then go into the week next, or into the next week, when I have to go ahead and put the money into Group C, which is, of course, where I own AMD. So that is the plan for next week. We also are, of course, like I mentioned before, I take out margin on my dividends and only my dividends. So say in total we're making around $500. I'll take $250 of that and split it. Of course, that'll be my margin. But that margin will also be split 50-50, as I mentioned before, or actually maybe 25-75. I haven't decided just yet. It might either be 50-50 or 25-75, but I might go with 50-50. And that 50-50 split, so 250 will become 125 each. Now 125 will go into JEPQ, which is a new position I've opened up and made a video about last week. The reason I am putting money into JEPQ is because I've realized that my account is open to large volatility and drops, because I do run option strategies on 3 times leveraged TNA, as well as the S&P 500, which of course is safer, but that's only one contract in my whole portfolio compared to the 10 contracts I have in TNA. Therefore, I've decided to go ahead and start putting some of my margin that I'm using, like I said, 50% of it every single week, into JEPQ, which allows me to capture 10% or 9 to 10% of dividend distribution, with also the distribution growth, as the dividends do grow with JEPQ. And as well with that, I also have value growth, since JEPQ does have some growth. Not very high, it's not crazy growth, but it is there, as well as providing 10% distribution rate annually. So that is the plans for this week. That is the distributions for this week. That is the plans for next week. That is how I'm going to be playing it out with these dividends that we're going to be receiving. Hopefully LFGY continues to pay a good amount every single week. If it's able to keep around the 50 or even the 50 to 70 cent mark, that'll be great to see. Very interesting to see if they're able to keep the NAV stable as well as distributing this. And also be interesting to see where FIVY goes, because I want to see if this is a possible investment, possibly in the next 2 to 3 months, because they do hold physical shares, or they hold actual shares in this ETFs or stocks that they are trading. So currently, I think they hold Coinbase, Tesla, or they hold Coinbase, Tesla, and they do have Coinbase, Tesla stocks. Not just synthetics. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes, how this plays out, and if it's a possible investment opportunity in the coming 2 to 3 months. So yep, that has been me. Thank you so much for watching our Wednesday updates of distributions for Roundhill and YieldMax ETFs. I will see you guys next, or actually no, I'm saying next week. I'm so used to it. I'll see you guys on Friday for Friday's video. Thank you so much for watching. That has been my distributions and the distributions for YieldMax. Thank you so much. Just don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on Friday.